I am very excited to have my next guest join us. Her debut EP is called How Did We Get Here? It is Blu DeTiger. Blu, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me.
I hope I didn't say that title too strangely. I feel like that's the best way to say it in light of the situation that we're in.
Yeah, totally. I know. No, that was it. Yeah, nailed it.
Is that how this title came about? I mean, this whole situation is just so strange.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like everyone's had the weirdest year ever. And I mean, this was like my first project, like debut EP. So I kind of wanted something that was like reminiscing on my upbringing and like journey as an artist. So I feel like that question kind of like sums it all up and is super reflective. I feel like everyone's just had like a super reflective year. So I think anyone can, answer that question with their own answer. But yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
Absolutely. You talk about your upbringing. I find your name really interesting, your background really interesting, and Blu is your real name.
Yes.
And I think if one were to really dig into your family background, it's quite obvious. Your dad is an artist in his own right. And so he has a very illustrious career, very successful career in art. And so what was his thinking in choosing that name, your parents choosing that name for you?
So my brother actually named me, which is interesting. He's a few years older than me, and he actually named me Blu, which is kind of cool. I like that story because like we work a lot together and we do a bunch of stuff together now and we're super close. But yeah, he named me Blu. He thought it was cool, and my parents were like, yeah, we love that actually. So yeah, that's kind of where my name came from.
Wow. So you guys are only a few years apart. When he was what, 3 years old?
He was like 3 or 4, and he was just like, oh, Blu would be a cool name. Like, let's call her Blu. And he was like so young, like so young. Yeah.
Now, you have 2 brothers. You have Rex and Luke, and their names are nowhere near as creative.
Yeah, I mean, Rex is kind of interesting. Yeah, Luke is not. I mean, he was the last one, so I guess, yeah. They were like, okay.
What was it like? So what was it like growing up with a dad who is such a creative? I understand that he was very much one of those parents that just let you guys have that creative freedom. I think I read somewhere that the motto is living equals art, art equals living. So as a kid, what was that like growing up?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, both my parents are really supportive in general, which I'm really lucky and blessed. And I think they were always just like, they're the type of parents that instill like in their kids, I guess, to follow your passions and, follow your dreams, all that sort of stuff. So I think like all of us kind of just grew up with that in mind, which is really awesome. So they're very supportive of like a creative career, obviously. So yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I feel super lucky because I know it's not like that for everyone. So.
When you're a little kid, were you able to paint on walls? Were you able to just do whatever and things?
Yeah, I mean, not really. We can't really, not really, but they didn't want us to ruin the walls. But yeah, it was more just like whatever we wanted to do, we could kind of test out, like if I want, like I wanted to play music, so they're like, yeah, of course, go for it, like play music. But yeah, I think I just was lucky that I found my passion like super early and just kept going with it and just like fell in love with it.
Were there any sounds that your parents introduced you to or had playing in the background? I would think that as an artist, your dad might have had some music playing and things that might have inspired him.
Yeah, I mean, it was more just like I found stuff, and my older brother would always play stuff because he's also, a musician, of course, but he was playing drums at the time too. And when I first started, we were always playing together when we were growing up. So he put me onto a lot of stuff, which I feel like is pretty classic, like a bunch of siblings, like always like, your older siblings, whatever they play, you kind of get into. So yeah, it was kind of like, yeah, me and him were finding new stuff and yeah, just like being kids like that and finding stuff.
What's interesting is that a lot of your sounds and the things that you were listening to, from what I understand, are kind of inspired by the throwbacks versus the more current artists. It's not like you grew up listening to Calvin Harris and Mumford & Sons or Linkin Park or anything like that. How did you discover those things? Was it just the internet? Was it records in your parents' collection?
Yeah, just I think just like the internet and like when I first started playing, I did this program called School of Rock where you have to learn. You like do like tribute shows to artists, so you learn songs by different artists and then you perform them at the end of like the season or whatever. So the first one I did was like Rolling Stones, and I did Led Zeppelin, I did AC/DC. So I was being introduced to a lot of, you know, the classics really early through that. And then yeah, I would just have, you know, I had really good mentors and teachers when I was learning, who would be like, okay, we have to like, you should check out this artist, like you should check out Chic or like Bernard Edwards style playing, and like learn all these songs. And then I like would learn them, you know. So it's kind of like a different mixture of me finding it and then also being introduced to it through different like amazing mentors and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of
I can see how the bass really appealed to you at that point, because a lot of funk and a lot of the disco sounds,
yeah, exactly.
you know, those throwback sounds are so bass heavy, right?
Yeah, that's like my stuff for sure. So it definitely carries into, yeah, all the stuff that I just released. Like I think the bass is just like the kind of at the forefront of all the tracks, which makes sense because it's, you know, my first instrument, kind of like my thing. So.
Now, you spoke about your brother. You guys actually formed a little band at one point together, and it just seemed like a natural fit because obviously the backbone of a band is the bass and the drums. And you created, I think you described it as future funk or something like that, right?
Yeah, me and my brother, like we were playing in bands together. Like when he was in high school and I was in middle school, like we had something together with some other people. And then then we were like touring a lot together in the same stuff. And then, yeah, we had like a little duo project. But yeah, we were always kind of just doing stuff together. Yeah, and the bass and drums work really nicely together. It's kind of like a package deal, rhythm section. And yeah, now it's awesome. Like he's gonna go on tour with me and play in my band when I start to do my tour. And then yeah, and then he's also going to I mean, he works on all my stuff as well, like production and songwriting wise too. So we're very like in sync from all that time playing together.
How do you feel about the exposure that you've gotten from TikTok? Because without that and the pandemic and all this other stuff, you would probably have a lower profile.
Yeah, yeah, I know, it's crazy because I was about to go on this tour with Fletcher where I was going to be like opening and playing in the band, and I definitely got more fans like on just by staying home than doing a tour, which is kind of crazy to even think about. But I mean, I love TikTok. Like I'm so grateful for it and for the timing. Like I think the timing was just really right, and it just all it all came together really, really well. But yeah, I mean, I think that app is so cool and creative, and I find like insanely creative people there every single day, and really funny people as well. Like there's just, you know, people are just on there being themselves and doing their thing, which is, you know, the coolest part about it. But shout out TikTok. I love it.
Now,
yeah.
You released this EP. I'm sure it knows about that too, based upon what you're posting and what people are saying. Congrats on this release as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So clearly, this is an accumulation of your music history, so to speak. How many of these songs are more recent versus the older ones? You know, how far back are we going into your life?
Yeah, so a few of them, so Figure It Out, you know, came out like last April. So that one was before. Vintage I wrote before, and Kind of Miss You I wrote before the pandemic. And then for the rest of them, I wrote, produced, finished them, did everything during the pandemic. And then all of the tracks, except for Figure It Out, I ended up like working on at least during the pandemic. So like, you know, adding elements or fixing things up. So they're all pretty much kind of through the perspective of this time, more or less.
And lyrically, man, you don't pull any punches. There are a lot of things that my mom may not be so approving of. She's a little more on the conservative side. What were the things that you were going through? I can tell, but I mean, if you could explain what was going on in your head.
Yeah, I mean, they're all pretty like cheeky and fun though in general. Like I think like I don't take myself too seriously. So a lot of the lyrics, you know, they're kind of like with Vintage, for example, that's super like tongue in cheek, kind of like, you know, making fun of like this vintage person character, but also like making fun of myself in the same time. You know what I mean? Like they're all kind of like, you know, in that sort of silly lane a little bit. And then there's like a few songs that are like a little bit more serious, like Cotton Candy Lemonade is more just like, you know, about those feelings that you have during the pandemic where you're just like, you know, you want to be transported somewhere else. So yeah, it's kind of a mix of things, but there's a lot of like nostalgia and talking about New York. A lot of the songs very like heavily reference New York City and missing dancing and going out and doing all that stuff. So
I am a big fan of your music. I'm sure that you are just soaking it all in right now. This EP is fantastic, and we can't wait for new music from you.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for doing this, and we hope to see you back here in San Francisco at some point.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I know I'd love to come play. So hopefully everyone gets their vaccine soon, so we can do it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.